LB seems to have vanished, which is fine because I know she was having difficulties with stuff. So it's okay because our guest is here. He's going to come on. He is a New Jerseyan like myself, a filmmaker, a co-founder and spokesman for an organization called the Visibility Brigade. Dana Glazer, welcome to the 5-8. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Greg.
Okay, so before we get started, you've been dutifully watching the show. You didn't sign off and run away in terror. So do you have any thoughts about what we said or anything you want to share about any of this horrible stuff? And if not, that's also fine.
Well, I don't think I have, in terms of my perspective, I think that it's like worldwide wrestling, the whole Epstein thing. And I think that we need to be focused on the major issues, which is this horrendous bill that the GOP is putting forth. That's really what we need to be focusing on right now.
The big, beautiful bill, you mean? It's big. Yeah. It's beautiful. So, right. Yeah. So tell everybody what the Visibility Brigade is. You have the image behind you. So this is a great thing, and I want everybody. People love stuff like this in our audience. They love stuff that they can get involved with. So tell us what it is that you did, how it came to be. Yeah. Give us the origin story.
Sure. Well, in terms of the origin story of the brigade, I think that a group of us felt very frustrated that there wasn't any. You would go around in normal life and everything would seem fairly normal. This was back in 2020, and we decided to disrupt that. And we thought, well, how can we do this? And one idea was there was an overpass that's close to us. And we looked at it and said, you can see right through it. It's incredibly visible on a daily basis during rush hour traffic. For 90 minutes going in each direction is about 5,000 people each way. So that's 10,000 people during 90 minutes who could see a physical sign. And I think that it's really important that we as citizens get up out of our chairs, stop looking at screens, and do something. And that's what we're about. That's why I think a lot of people across the country are following suit and creating their own brigades and doing this sort of thing, because we need to do something. The rent for democracy is due, and we're going to get evicted. And the reason why we're getting evicted is because we haven't been paying on a weekly basis. And that's what we try to do with the Visibility Brigade, which is on a weekly basis, we go out there and we share a message of oftentimes of hope, sometimes of rage, sometimes of we just want people to understand what's happening because they're not paying attention. So we're doing a public service, and that's really what we're about.
I love it. So how did it come about? How did the idea come about, and how did you do the first foray into it? Because right off the bat, you're like, is it legal to do that? Are you allowed to put signs up? Like, how did you navigate all of that space? Our side is always worried about the law, Dana. Their side doesn't give a shit. They're like, oh, right. Wow, we're just going to have meme coin and have money from, yeah.
So there's something called First Amendment rights, which as long as we have a constitution, it applies. And the first time that I went out with this group of activists, my wife said to me, "Please don't get arrested." So, and the reality of
did you?
Fortunately, no.
Okay, good. Yeah.
The reality of an overpass, of a pedestrian walkway in the United States, is it's public. And the way that this works in terms of First Amendment rights is if you are on a sidewalk, if you're in a public park, you have rights as a citizen to express yourself. That doesn't mean that you should block somebody's way, that you shouldn't be blocking traffic, you shouldn't be blocking the pedestrian walkway, but you have rights to be up there and to be doing that. This is a particularly useful spot for that reason. And so, we go and we occupy it for, 90 minutes at a time. And that's our right to do. And that's how we do it. Now, the police might interpret this differently in different places, depending on where you are. Right. But the bottom line is, federally, we have a constitution that protects us under the First Amendment. And we're exercising those rights. And that's something that we as citizens need to do more and more, is to wake up, get up, and do stuff. And if you don't feel comfortable getting up on an overpass, there are all sorts of other things to do. But let me just talk about the overpass for a second.
Yeah, because it's really
in
cool.
terms of this model. So we certainly didn't invent this idea. This has been around for a long time. I think what we sort of came upon was a model in which, on a weekly basis, we changed the lettering. We have letters, as you can see in the background, that we change so it's dynamic. So people driving past, they're always seeing a different thing. The other thing you can see in the picture is that there are people up there, and they're waving, and that's a very personal thing. When you see somebody and they're standing behind a message that they believe in, and they're waving at you, it's visceral, and it's not only powerful for the people who are driving by, but it's a very redemptive, powerful thing for the people up on the overpass. And I think that's why this is caught on. So right now we have, this, what started in Paramus has become a movement across the country. We now have well over 100 groups that are chapter groups of Visibility Brigade, and they're all working independently, but it's all basically the same thing. And the reason why I think this is catching on is there's an activist who recently described this as the new gateway drug to activism, which I think is really funny.
Great quote. Yeah.
But the idea being that when you're up there, it's an incredible feeling. You feel better. Our motto is action is the antidote for despair, and we live by that. And it's a very celebratory experience being up there among other people. Oftentimes people bring music. There's just a lot of chit chat. People are dancing a little bit. It's very community oriented. And I think that so much of our culture tries to separate everybody, put everybody in their own little pockets. And, this is the kind of thing that we need to be doing. And the other part of it is, as opposed to regular protests, where, oftentimes it happens in major cities, but if you're elsewhere, you don't even know about it. What we're doing in terms of overpasses is we're saying, hey, something's happening that's wrong here, and we need you to wake up and pay attention to it. So we're going places where people aren't necessarily paying attention, and we're reminding them that we're in a state of crisis. And I think that that's the value of what we do.
I love it. I think it's, and looking at the picture, like, because I think I'm a cowardly person, Dana, when it comes to physical stuff like this, but looking at that seems fine. I have one thing in my head. I'm just standing on there waving to people. Like, that's not scary,
No.
And you're right. I'm allowed to have one sign up and stand on an overpass, yeah. So this is a wonderful idea. Now there's two things I want to hit. First of all, action is the antidote to despair is going to be the title for this episode. I wrote it down. I love that. That's really good. You mentioned before we came on the 3.5%. Tell people about the 3.5%, what that means.
Yes. So there's a Harvard researcher named Erica Chenoweth, and she wrote several books on this. Where she went and studied different movements in the 1900s in terms of the fight against authoritarianism. And she had two conclusions that are major. Number one, nonviolence is always more powerful than violent. You have a much better chance at resisting, actively and successfully resisting authoritarianism with nonviolence as opposed to picking up guns. So that's number one. Number two, the more successful countries that overthrow or effectively resisted had 3.5% of the population or more actively doing so. That's an important component. So while I'm certainly not a mathematician, I think of this as a numbers game. What we're trying to do is awaken people. There's a lot of people out there who feel as we do, that something is terribly wrong in this country, but a lot of people aren't doing anything about it. And so our job is to awaken and to activate people, to give them different ideas and tools to do something about it. Now, what we have on the overpass is one tool. Not everybody in the world is going to want to go and climb up, go up in an overpass and do this sort of thing, and that's fine. But there are so many other things that you can do, and it's important that people understand that. So that's the kind of thing, is that we're not trying to promote ourselves as like this movement that's unto itself. We are here to remind people, to awaken people. And it doesn't matter whether you want to come to the overpass or do something else, but you got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The rent is due.
My saying is, no one could do everything, but everyone must do something.
That's right.
Which is very similar to if everybody's somebody, then no one's anybody. Because I always rip off Gilbert and Sullivan. It's very but I think this is a really good thing to do. I think people want to do stuff and don't know what to do. I think that's part of the problem. And this, to me, this seems like a what did you say? It's a gateway drug. This is like activism on training wheels, right? It's like it my mom might even do this. Hi, Mom.
Absolutely. We have people who run the gambit from, I mean, there was a 90-year-old woman. You don't see it in the picture here, but there's an elevator, fortunately, and there's a ramp on this. It's a lovely overpass.
Where is that? Is that 3? Where is that?
It's in Paramus, New Jersey. And
what highway is it?
Route 4.
4. Okay.
Yeah, Route 4 in Paramus, New Jersey. It's just a lovely, lovely overpass, and it was created by union workers. And what it was really interesting is about a month or two ago, a woman came up to join us and said, I was one of the people who built this. I was like, really? Nice. So actually, there's a little video clip about her talking about how this is a public space. It was designed and made for the public to use, and that's an important thing. And we need to take advantage of these opportunities and to express our voices of dissent.
Yeah, no, it's now you've created at Visibility Brigade again. I
didn't create the Visibility.
No. You are one of a group of people who created. I know you want no credit for this at all.
Let me just say right here that if it was just me, I wouldn't be here talking to you. It requires a small. There's a famous Margaret Mead quote. I don't know if you're acquainted with Margaret Mead, but she's a very famous quote, basically saying, in order to change the world, you need a small group of determined people, and that's the kind of the people that have worked with me since we started this 5.5 years ago, and now it's only grown from there. But there's not an individual kind of thing. This is a collective kind of thing. And what we did was we learned from mistakes and trial and error in terms of how to do this in the way that we do it. And after the 2024 election, we created a toolkit, and that is what really took off, because we wrote into it all the different lessons that we learned to here's how you can do it. Becoming incredibly granular in terms of here's how you build the letters, here's where you go get the materials, right? It's just as much information as we could pack, and it's a continual work in progress. That if you go to the website, which is visibilitybrigade.com, you'll see right in the front, check out our toolkit. You open it up, and it gives you a plethora of information. Then you can go and create your own brigade on your own overpass. And that's the joy of this, which is there are so many pedestrian overpasses.
Yeah.
So, my daughter and I were driving down the highway, and I had her taking pictures like, wouldn't that be a nice one? That'd be a good one. There are so many spaces for us to do this. And that's the whole vision of this movement, is to really encompass that, and to really just to extend it out into the country as far as we can. We had an action, by the way, last weekend that spanned 30 states, and it included 60 brigades, and that was really exciting.
Was it? I was going to ask about that. Was that like the same message that you were showing, yes, or was it what was the message?
So the message was, your state initials fights fascism. So
Nice.
we did New Jersey, NJ fights fascism, Oklahoma fights fascism, CT fights fascism, FL fights flash, so on and so forth. It was very profound thing to have everybody doing this coordinated effort at once. And the thing is that all these groups that are out there, there's nobody who dictates to anybody, this is what you need to do. Everybody is independent. These are all independent groups with their own independent voices. And, but what's great is that we can coordinate on occasion, come together and create a coherent message that expands across the United States. And so we'll continue to do that as we move along. And it binds us together. And that's just so much of this, right? Is that create a coherent vision of America coming together to fight against fascism. I see this as, it's a very difficult time, but I really see this as an incredible challenge for us, that this is an opportunity for us, that years from now, our grandchildren or great grandchildren will look back and say, wow, you were there. What did you do?
Yep.
And I think I want everybody who's listening to this, who's watching this, to be able to say, I stood up for our country. I did stuff. I fought, non-violently, of course, but I fought for our country, and that's what we all need to do.
That's beautifully said. You're choking me up, Dana. You're choking me up in a good way, because I think you're right. I think, I've been thinking it along those terms the whole time I've been doing what I'm doing, which is I want to be able to look back and say, I tried everything I could do. And I think that's what people want to do. They want to be like, I did everything in my power.
It makes you feel better. That's the magic of it. It makes you feel better in this process. This is a terrible, horrific time. Like, my intake of news is like, very small. enough so that we can work together and craft messages that are really, spot on and insightful, right? But it's a difficult time. We have to persevere, and we have to be here in the moment, struggling and fighting against. But it's also, I feel better doing this constantly. I feel good because there's nothing more I could be doing. Right. And I think that anybody who's watching this, I assure you, the more you do, the better you're going to feel. And that doesn't mean going an overpass. That could mean a number of different things. Calling your representatives, there's a whole bunch of stuff. If you go to the toolkit, we actually have a section that's called Operation Activate. And it's not the overpass idea. It's going to places where people congregate and are just putzing around, like farmers markets or street fairs. We go with poster boards, and the poster boards say something like, are you concerned about our country, or worried about fascism? Here's what you can do. And then there's a little QR code on the poster boards, which then people can go and click on it, and it'll bring them to a page that gives you a whole bunch of things that they can do. So, like, this stuff is in the toolkit, right? The toolkit of, this is how you can create and activate, Operation Activate action in your own area, right? But also, here's the sheet that links to, and there's a whole bunch of options, so everybody can do something. And that's what we all need to be doing.
I love that. And I think the idea of this state fights fascism is like, no one is against that. There are people that are against it, but most people are.
We got a few fingers.
JD Vance is a fascist, but like most people don't want fascism. Yeah. So, it's not like sometimes you go to these things and people are protest, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. But it's a message that you can get behind, because it's very, it's a low bar to say, hey, democracy's kind of like nice. Maybe we should keep it. Right. I think that's a good thing to do. So how do you go about crafting the messages? Like, how do you do that? Because you mentioned, only looking at the news briefly because, Boy, that would be must be nice to only have to log on sometimes.
Well, I mean, there's some certain people that I trust, like Heather Cox Richardson is somebody that I trust, and she is very thoughtful in terms of how she goes about talking about what's going on. So it's not like I'm oblivious to what's going on. I assure you.
I know. I know.
But it's important to cut through the BS. There's a lot of stuff that's being thrown at us. There's a hose of despair that's being blasted at us at every moment, so that we basically go, I just can't keep, I give up. That's what they want us to do, right? They don't want us to get out of our seats. They want us to sit there and doom scroll. And I'm saying, let's get up, let's do stuff. So in terms of, to answer your question, in terms of crafting messages, it's really fun. It's like a, as a filmmaker and as an artist, it's like poetry. Every week you have five words. You basically, if you look at it, right, you can see the message, right? See it? Okay.
Cop cut starved kids.
Right? Straightforward, to the point. Yep. Okay. And so how do we get to the heart of it? We have more clever messages. If you look in the toolkit that's on our website, you'll see there's a whole smattering of things. We also are on Facebook and Instagram, and you can see all the stuff that we post as well. And that's at Visibility Brigade, I think, for both of those. But in terms of coming up with messages, it's fun. It's really fun. And we have like a signal group, because we're private citizens. We're not like Hegseth, right? So we have a signal group, and we bandy about and say, hey, well, we throw this against the wall and throw that against the wall, and it's like, and then people respond to it, and then basically it's a kind of a messy consensus of like, oh, okay, people are responding to this message, let's go for it, right? And because we do it now, we basically do it like twice a week because of the crisis that we're in. And during the Biden administration, we did it once a week, but now we do it twice a week, two sides, so we can, if we don't have to hit the right message, we get the next time, right? And we just keep doing it on a weekly basis, rhythmically. And I think that's the important part of this, is that you get into the habit on a weekly basis of donating your time, your effort, whatever it is, to saving democracy. And if everybody did that, we'd be out of this mess.
I love that. And I think the way to think about it, like Joe DiMaggio used to say, every game that I play, I want to play as many games as possible, and I want to give it my all, because somebody in the audience, somebody in the stands may have come to see me play and will never come again, and I want to give my all for that person. And I think it's the same kind of idea with what you're doing, because not everybody is in Paramus all the time. Like on Sunday, the malls are closed. So you have to, like, it is a situation where you are going to hit new people every time you do it. And, which is, again, something that makes it sort of magical. So yeah, I think this is a wonderful thing. And
Thank you.
I wish you the best of success. My dear friend, Madhu Marin, turned me on to you, and I trust her implicitly, and she's never wrong about what she does. So once again, before we send you off, Dana, tell everybody where we can find you and where we can, how they can get involved.
Just go to www.visibilitybrigade.com, and all the information will be there. There's a national mailing list. There's, if you happen to live in the Paramus area, you can come join our group. There's also a group directory across the country. So if wherever you live, there are new groups forming. If you don't find a group that's near you, then just go read the toolkit, make one, sign up, and now you're a part of the movement.
Awesome. I love it. Dana Glazer, wait, I gotta this control panel. Where are you? Sorry. There you are. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. I feel better just hanging out with you for like 20 minutes. So I think this whole thing is going to be good. I
feel better hanging out with you, Greg.
Oh, thank you. But so again, visibilitybrigade.com. Dana Glazer, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.